Hello grade 6 students. Our lesson for today will be Body Control, Sensory and Motor Nervous Messages, Part 2. Before watching the video, please prepare your science booklet, draft papers to take notes, and a pencil. Before you start, please read and follow these instructions. At the end of this video, students will be able to explain and schematize the pathway of the sensory and motor nervous messages. In the previous lesson, we learned the difference between two types of nervous messages: the sensory nervous messages, which are sent from the sense organs to the central nervous system, carried by the nerves; the motor nervous messages, which are sent from the central nervous system to the muscles and are transmitted through nerves. We are going first to trace and explain the pathway of a sensory nervous message. We will take a practical example: smelling a flower. Smelling a flower is an action which involves a sensory nervous message. So this message is transmitted from the sense organ, which is the nose, which is responsible, of course, for smelling, to the part of central nervous system, which interpret the input from the senses, which is the cerebrum. This transmission is carried out by nerves. So this is how we trace the pathway of a sensory nervous message. It starts from the sense organ responsible for the action, then it is carried by the nerves to the part of the central nervous system responsible for analyzing it. As a result, the person could recognize the smell of the flower. Open your booklet, please, on worksheet 13 and let us practice tracing the pathway of a sensory nervous message and explaining it. But before you pause the video, I want to give you some hints. Before you start solving the questions of part 1, just add next to the figure as shown the type of an action and the type of the nervous message involved. This would help you plan for tracing the pathway of this message. In this case, indicating the type of action as voluntary action would help you know that the cerebrum would analyze the involved nervous message. Indicating the type of nervous message as sensory nervous message would help you draw an outline for its pathway, which would be in general from the responsible sense organ to the cerebrum, transmitted by nerves. Regarding part 2, when you explain the pathway, you describe it using words. So, pause the video here and use these hints to solve part 1 of worksheet 13 in 5 minutes. Now, let's correct your work. The pathway of the nervous message would be from the sense organ skin transmitted through nerves to the cerebrum. Regarding the explanation, the sense organ skin sends a sensory nervous message through the nerves to the spinal cord, then to the cerebrum, which analyzes it. Now the girl knows that she is touching the ball. Now we are going to trace and explain the pathway of a motor nervous message. We will take a new example: the action picking a flower. This action involves a motor nervous message. This message is transmitted from the cerebrum, which is the part of the central nervous system controlling the movement of skeletal muscles. So the message is transmitted from the cerebrum to the muscles of the hand, which are involved in this action. This transmission is also carried out by nerves. So this is how we trace the pathway of a motor nervous message, starting from the responsible part of the central nervous system, transmitted through nerves to the responsible muscle. As a result, you can do the action. Now, let's get back to our booklet and solve the second part of worksheet 13. You are going to trace and explain the pathway of the nervous message involved in the action throwing a ball. So pause the video please and solve it in 5 minutes. Now it's time for correction. The pathway of this nervous message would be from the cerebrum carried through nerves to the arms muscles, which are responsible for throwing the ball. Regarding the explanation, the cerebrum sends a motor nervous message to the spinal cord and then through nerves to the hands muscles needed to throw the ball. Now the girl can throw the ball. That's all for today. See you next time.